Welcome to another edition of Breaking News brought to you by Source Selection Soundbites. Today we will discuss the case of Wilson 5 Service Company decided at the GAO. In this acquisition, Public Building Services, a division of the General Services Administration, or GSA, had a requirement for facilities maintenance at 17 locations throughout the state of Georgia. The solicitation contemplated a two-phase procurement in which GSA would evaluate proposals under the demonstrated prior experience factor and other factors before issuing advisory notifications to offerers, informing each offerer whether it was likely to be a viable competitor. So vendors could decide if it was in their best interest to participate in phase 2, where the agency would evaluate the most important evaluation factor, management approach. Under the prior experience factor in phase 1, the agency will measure the breadth, depth, and relevance of a vendor's prior experience performing projects similar in size, scope, and complexity to those described in the solicitation. In particular, the RFQ provided that projects should be inclusive of 2 or more facilities, geographically dispersed from one another under one contract. The solicitation further stated that a distance of less than 200 miles between at least 2 of the locations under a project will be viewed as an unfavorable aspect of the offeror's quote, and that projects not inclusive of 2 or more facilities will be viewed as an unfavorable aspect of the offeror's quote. Wilson 5 Service filed a pre-award protest against the terms of the solicitation. The protester raised 2 interesting objections to the terms of the solicitation. The protester asserted that the assessment of an unfavorable aspect to a quotation that does not demonstrate prior experience performed at multiple facilities under a single contract is without a reasonable basis and results in an improper negative rating. The protester asserts the same about the 200-mile distance between facilities. The protester also argued that the solicitation's evaluation scheme also unduly restricts competition because the most important evaluation factor, management plan, is not evaluated until phase 2. In response, the agency argued that a requirement that a prior experience factor relate to geographically dispersed facilities managed under one contract is demonstrably reasonable as it aligns with one of its goals to reduce the risk of unsuccessful contract performance by evaluating whether a vendor's prior experience was successful in managing locations with similar geographic dispersion. In response to the protesters' assertion of limiting competition, the agency responded that phased evaluation is reasonably related to GSA's minimum needs. En route to finding against the agency, the court determined that the agency had not adequately explained why its 200-mile criterion is reasonably necessary to meet its needs, and why it needed to downgrade proposals that did not demonstrate experience maintaining facilities that are 200 miles apart. The GSA also answered the protesters' contention that the 2-phase evaluation that evaluates the most important factor in the second phase will limit competition by scaring off worthy competitors whose offers are downgraded over the least important factor before they are evaluated on the most critical one. GAO quickly dispatched this claim and found it to be without merit because even if a vendor is notified after phase 1 that it has a low probability of success, it can still submit its management plan quotation, and the agency will still evaluate and consider that quotation. Therefore, the 2-phase evaluation process will not limit quotations from consideration for award. Accordingly, this portion of the protest was denied. Now let's address a few of the lessons learned from this protest. They include 1. The time to challenge a restrictive solicitation provision is before the solicitation closes. 2. The agency must have a cogent rationale for any restrictive solicitation provisions. And 3. Evaluating the most important evaluation factor in later phases of an advisory downselect procurement does not limit competition, especially since every offerer may compete in all phases. In this episode of Source Selection Soundbites, we discussed the Wilson 5 Service Company case and the advisory, downselect, and other acquisition principles associated with it. This concludes today's Source Selection Soundbite. If this video was helpful, hit the like and subscribe button to ensure you don't miss any new material. If you want more details on the subject, they are available on the Source Selection Answer app. It contains lectures, quizzes, court cases, sample documents, and more material that allows practitioners to quickly obtain actionable knowledge. Thanks for watching. See you next time.